Hello everyone, in 3 days it will be Christmas. Merry Christmas everyone, and thank you for joining us. We now know why President Buhari refused to assent to the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. In a 19-paragraph letter to the National Assembly yesterday, he cited some reasons. One, of course, would be the fact that it will bring so much financial burden on the federal government. He talked about insecurity, how much pressure it will bring on security operatives, as well as legal concerns, amongst other reasons. However, what we do not know is how the National Assembly will respond. The House of Reps yesterday decided to only talk about Mr. President's letter later in January. However, I spoke with the Senate spokesperson on the news last night, and he gave certain options before the Senate, one of which would be to accept Mr. President's reason, edit the document, and retransmit it to him for assent. He also said, well, they could just go the way of previous National Assembly, totally abandon the document and let the 2023 election run on the old Electoral Act. The other option will be to outrightly override Mr. President. And a senator on the floor of the Senate yesterday did say that they have gathered some 73 signatures, that there are 73 senators ready now to go ahead with vetoing Mr. President. Well, that's what we're talking about this morning as we begin to find out what way forward. This is perhaps the fourth time that this bill will be suffering similar fate from the executive. The big question would be, will Nigerians get an upgraded version of the Electoral Act in 2023? I'm joined by Smatuluwale Akpejoye, political affairs analyst. Good morning. Is Akpejoye?
Thank you. Akpejoye.
Akpejoye. You know what was in my mind was Akpejoye. Have you seen that movie?
Yes, of course.
Chukuma Ezeala, we spoke online the other time. Thank you so much for finding time to come. Gentlemen, good morning. Are you disappointed, Mr. Akpejoye, that for the fourth time this bill is not getting the nod from the executive?
I would not want to say yes, and equally I would not want to say no. In the first place, my view, am I in support of the fact that Mr. President refused to, rejected that clause that talked about imposition of a certain process for which a party will conduct their internal affairs and giving such authority to the Nigerian Constitution to solely determine. First, when they came up with this, I said, look, I am not in support of this clause. The various political parties have their laws. Let their candidate or whatever, let it emerge at the way they deem fit. And it could vary from state to state. A state could say we want consensus candidate. The other state could say we want direct primary or indirect primary. Let it be their affairs. I was not really in support of it. But however, Mr. President refusing to assent to the bill, rejecting it in totality, is what I'm against. So that is where I will say I disagree with Mr. President.
But from his letter, can we say he has rejected it?
No, he has, because in the first place, if he has not rejected it, he would have signed it, just like what happened to the Petroleum Act. You see, they sent it to him, and some aspects of it, he said, okay, look, I am not in support of this aspect, so please rework and amend this aspect. He could have done the same thing, because the document is so voluminous, and just one aspect of it is what Mr. President is rejecting, and because of that he disagrees with, and because of that he refused, he withheld his assent on the total document. I think it's a disservice to the country. It's a disservice to the National Assembly. And again, I think Mr. does not have good advisors. His advisors would have advised him, Mr. President, go ahead and sign this, while also making a quick amendment, asking for an amendment to this aspect of it. So I think that is why I said I would not say yes and I would not say no.
Well, perhaps the President didn't want to take that chance. But let's take a look at the reasons he has given, one of which is I think his biggest concern is the controversial impute of the direct primary, in that particular document. But he is saying now that it would mean is concerned about the financial burden on the federal government. It talked about the pressure on security operatives and the fact that it's not also fair on smaller political parties. How do you react to that?
Thank you. The first aspect is the financial implications. We also know that the APC, which is the largest party today in Nigeria, have been using direct primaries, and I'm not sure the security agencies are complaining.
Not in all cases, though.
No, I know in most of their cases, if not in all their cases, especially in Lagos and bigger areas, they did. So where would the problem be? In 1989 to 1990, we had the same, in fact, in a more cumbersome way, direct primaries. You know, those ones were even in different polling units. Now you're talking about just direct primaries in the wards. So I do not think that the reason given is enough to say there shouldn't be direct primaries. Yes, given that it may be better to say parties choose what you want. But it's also part of the things we are complaining today. The leadership of the political, like for instance in a state, when you say delegates, the governors will bring, the commissioners will bring all their people to vote as delegates. Simply what it translates to be is that the governor determines who succeeds him and who takes whatever position you have. And that is the contest between the National Assembly and the governors and the president.
How genuine was this bill in the first place? Because like what you said, some people would say it was just about lawmakers taking the political power away from their governors. I mean, is it really about adding to quality democracy or about who gets the chance to run again?
No, I think it's more of removing the party from being a one-man party to a multi-person's party. I think that is the struggle between the political class. But this time, the National Assembly seemed to be a kind of siding with the people, at least to allow the people to have a say in what is going to happen in the political parties. There are, yes, implications, but we think that democracy is all about, you know, we continue moving. And when we see challenges, we can always change with those challenges. And the smaller parties do not have problems, because how many people do they really have? You call them smaller parties because they don't have much people. So if they don't have much people, their own is not a problem. The problems are the big parties that will need to manage the crowd.
What is the logic in, you know, citing the people in direct primary? Because think about it. Does direct primary really means that the people will definitely have a say in who represents their party?
Yes, to a large extent, you see, it starts from the ward. That means, as a member of maybe Ward C in Ikorodu, I'll probably have a say on who invariably becomes the governor of my party, that the flag bearer of my party. Let me put it that way. That means all of them will campaign and will probably say, okay, I think among all this, I think I prefer Governor Hay, and I will I will give him my vote. Or Governor
That is assuming that the process is going to be free, fair, and
You see, in the first place, to a large extent, if it is direct primaries, where everybody have to be there, there is no way you will come and hijack the process at the ward and we will not protest.
I don't agree with you. There are other factors.
I will tell you, you see, in the first place, there is no way. But however, what we have seen in the past is that we still see party hierarchy at the top, hijacking it at the ward level. They will come up with the ward, they will come up with the list. They will say, okay, this is the list of those that we vote in the ward. Even though some of these persons, they don't get to see them at ward meetings. They don't even pay their dues at ward meetings. You see, totally what the National Assembly is trying to do is to ensure that everybody gets a right to choose who or she wants. But again, as it concerns Nigerian contest, let us always give it to the money bags. They will always determine. I saw what happened during the Ambode and Jide Sanwo-Olu. We saw what happened in Lagos. Because again, it was direct primary. You see somebody winning 90%, even at a place where it's not very popular. We saw some people. So we know what happened. You see, the candidate that emerged was invariably the candidate that the party wants. And if I say the party hierarchy wants in the state, the hierarchy in the state says, okay, we don't want Ambode, and this is the person we are bringing in. And because we are bringing him in, this is the person. They went to, they say, okay, let's throw it open. But we saw that the process was not really too democratic. At least I witnessed it. But however, you see, all political parties have their ways of wanting to conduct their elections.
I think that process was option A4, where people lined
it was not even
it
was not even option A4.
Okay.
It was not even option A4, so to say. But however, that was exactly what happened. But behind the scene, that was not what happened. But that is not the topic of discussion. The topic of discussion now is that either direct or indirect, party hierarchy have their way of hijacking elections, even at the world level. But again, because all the political parties have their constitution, they have set up their ways where party will emerge. Now, the National Assembly now wanted to make it a constitutional matter that this is the process you must follow. I think a little bit I am not too comfortable with that. And I'm not comfortable with that. It shouldn't have even come up. Mr. President should have been advised to assent to it, and by the time you know it, he would have solved this problem. Because right now what people are saying about him is that, oh, Mr. President is not ready to bequeath a good constitutional electoral process because twice or three times he has refused to sign Electoral Act. So when you look at it now, you now begin to look, is there anything Mr. President is afraid of?
But if the National Assembly removes the direct primary provision and retransmits it to the President, he has a second chance. Well,
I think that would be the fastest way to go. I am not in support of this collection of signatures because I know it will not fly. I can tell you from my definition that it will not fly.
We'll get there.
So, okay.
We'll get there, but let's look at the security concern that Mr. President talked about. There is banditry in northwest Nigeria, and it has taken a very unpleasant dimension. And the President is saying that gathering a lot of people in different places at the same time, maybe not at the same time, but for a period of time, across the country is going to put pressure on security infrastructure.
But if
doesn't that make some sense?
But if you still look at the indirect primaries you're talking about, some people will still be elected at the ward level to vote for the people.
But the gathering of people will be minimal.
It will still be gathering of people. And even if you're going to have the elections in a local government, most of the local governments in the north, for instance, have been overrun, by the insurgents. So you still have the same thing. So the next thing would happen to this extent. What do? We have electronic voting. So why don't we, if we are afraid of security issues, the only way to curb it is electronic voting. And when you have electronic voting, direct primaries can also work with the electronic, because you can now be anywhere as long as you're verified that you can vote. I think we should move a step forward. If moving a step forward means let's avail ourselves of the opportunities of technology, and let people participate, because when people participate, it becomes theirs. The person becomes theirs, and they know, yes, this is ours. Yes, parties can truncate it. Yes, they wanted to do direct primaries in Lagos and they didn't do it, but it cannot continue for a long time. It will get to a stage where we will no longer get there. Electronic voting, you can have a way, you can stay in your house and do it, and those security concerns will be taken care of. Even INEC, these things will be a kind of the financial implications will even be lower, much more lower, because when you look at indirect primaries, what happens? You have people that collect 1 million, 2 million, 5 million. It's even more costly. In the NBA, we were doing indirect elections before, and it was costing the aspirants so much until we started direct election where everybody votes, and we did it electronic. So how many people are you going to bribe? How much are you going to give them? How will you be able to get 200,000 people and bribe them? But when you have just 100 persons or 1,000 persons, you just budget. Look at what happened even before Buhari emerged as a candidate in 2014. What happened? You know how much in dollars that people distributed.
Allegedly.
But when you allegedly distributed, allegedly distributed.
You didn't distribute it and you didn't take it.
But we know as a fact that this is what happens in Nigeria. So we can just go the English way to say allegedly. But we all of us see it, and it's so palpable, before us, how much people, not just Buhari, but in all other political parties.
Did you see it too, the dollars?
Well, I didn't see it, and I was not there. I was not there, so I didn't see it. So.
However, I'm also concerned about you look at the development, as it were, And the president is also talking about the implication on litigations. You know, they just concluded Anambra election now. A court judgment just said that INEC take the APC candidate's name out of that election. The president is saying that this is going to increase litigations. Do you see sense in that?
Well, you see, in the first place, I always welcome litigation. It's just that the process is always too long, and perhaps it does not address justice immediately. Now, in the first place, litigation is part of democracy. If you feel like they've go to the courts. So, but however, there should be a window.
But the situation where elections are now won in the
no, there should be a window. And so, if I mean there should be a window before, you see, if we have our, we always have this, I'm forgetting the word to use. We are always doing everything in a rush. If we plan ourselves very well and say, okay, the judiciary must dispense judgment between this time and this time, and these are the processes you will go, these are the processes you will go, and within this time, if it is dispensed with, so be it. You see, judiciary, we should not be afraid of litigation, because in the first place, it is part of democracy. If I feel aggrieved, I should be able to address a court. So him citing that, and also again, him also citing security issue again is an indictment of a failure on the government itself. If you are saying because of insecurity you cannot conduct an election freely in a local government, then what are you doing as Mr. President? Then what are you doing as the chief security officer of the nation? Then what are the governors doing as the chief security officer of the states, even though they are called the chief security officer and they are not really in charge of any security? Honestly, I think Mr. President even saying that also is admitting that, look, I have failed in the area of security. He shouldn't have even brought that. Very good. He should have said, we should have limited to, look, let parties conduct their primaries the way they want. By the time they come up with the way they want it, let them just inform INEC so INEC can supervise it. He should have stopped there. But bringing so many clauses to justify his failure on the area of insecurity.
He actually did not mention insecurity as it were. He said it will bring pressure on security, operatives.
It is a better way. It is a better way of saying, look, we are not protecting that. We are failed in security issues.
But it appears what we are saying now on this particular matter of direct primaries is that the governors are on one side and the lawmakers are on the other side. It's amazing to see even governors on the other side of the divide congratulating President Buhari for making that particular decision. What does that tell us?
No. From the beginning, PDP had always insisted that they want indirect primaries. They had done that from the beginning. They had been doing indirect primaries. APC had stood for direct primaries. Now, the issue of the abuse of direct primaries is one aspect of the divide. The issue of the abuse of not, but then we are moving. And part of the things the present bill sought to cure was that INEC will have enough time before, within 30 days, you need to conclude the process. And that is why the judiciary is not able to conclude it before the elections. But the current bill has given more time, more latitude for party primaries to be done early enough. And the various court rules have also given the judges this marching order to determine most of these pre-election activities, before the election. So, but I think it's a democracy. We are all moving up. We are all moving, and I think we are going. Just the other time, we saw judiciary making orders, expert orders from different places, and the NJC has come in to say, don't do that. And has always asked them, why are you not giving your orders as early as possible? And
even penalize the judges.
And penalize the judges. So we are, I think, democracy, we're just 20-something years. Very soon we are moving. And if you have technology, the litigation aspects will just reduce because people will see they failed. The security agencies watching, the INEC watching will almost be taken to the background because when you fail, you have failed. And there won't be much litigation again. So I think that is where we should be going. But the politicians are against the people. It's not just a question of the president and the governors and the nationals. All of them are against the people. They don't really want this electoral bill. All of them, including the National Assembly, because the president has a liaison officer in the National Assembly. Did he raise it? I mean, there was public hearing. Can the president show us evidence that it raised these issues and National Assembly refused to listen to it? Do you understand? The president is relatively part of lawmaking. You know, he also serves as a check on the National Assembly, just like National Assembly serves also as a check on the president. So they are all supposed to work for the people.
You're saying there was no need for this delay if this was what was on the president's mind all the while. But we also understand that the president could have been, you know, influenced by a lot of other decisions. The governors are there. He has the AGF who has pointed him to some of the provisions of the law. But let us look at the options before the National Assembly. As we speak now, the House of Reps has decided not to talk on this matter until they go on break for Christmas and resume sometime, I think January 18, thereabout. But the ball seems to be in the court of the senators, isn't it?
First, I think there's nothing the senators will do again because they are also going on break. And they'll probably convene maybe second week in January.
But we're likely going to hear the position on it later on today.
Well, it will not be their position. It will be what is going to be their likely position. But sitting here, my advice to the Senate and the National Assembly, to the Joint Assembly, is that they should just remove that clause which Mr. President has complained of and return it back to him. That would be the fastest way to amend this. Because failing to do this, again, if this goes down the line again that this electoral bill is not assented by Mr. President and we go into a 2023 election, sincerely speaking, it does not augur well for the nation. It does not speak well of even Mr. President that has vowed to uphold the tenets of the Nigerian constitution. Let him do the right thing. And again, if you look at it, so many millions of naira was spent preparing this thing, going through so many processes, public hearing, all this. So that will not be a waste. I mean, we cannot continue to waste, we cannot continue to be wasteful in this country. And that, again, when you look at it, the National Assembly must do the needful. And the only way the National Assembly will not be seen as a rubber stamp, as being alleged, as they have been alleged, is that they should immediately, look, if that is your problem, they should just remove that clause and return it back to him. And they should do that within the third week and the fourth week of their resumption, so it will not suffer delay again. That's my candidate this thing.
According to the...
So saying the senators who wants to veto it, it will not fly. That I can tell you. Because it will... Who among the senators will do this thing? All these people making noise. By the time they come back now, they will change their tune. We've always seen the National Assembly. What have they vetoed in this country? Tell me one. So many aspects that have been... That they will make noise, they will gather signature. At the end of the day, it dies down.
You're saying there is no antecedents to
overriding the president? There is no antecedent to overriding it.
So the Senate spokesman last night was saying that they did not consult with the president before passing this bill, and that the president even had to write them in a 19-paragraph letter to convince him otherwise, that there is no point talking about rubber stamp here. But the point is that we heard from a southern senator last night who mentioned that they had 73 signatures. The Vanguard is quoting 76. That's way above two-thirds that they need to veto Mr. President. Do you agree with him that the senators wouldn't dare?
But the fact is, can the senators alone veto Mr. President? The answer is no. You also need the House of Representatives. And can they get two-thirds in the House of Representatives? The answer is also no. Anyway, yes, I'm on the television, but let's not be thinking that some people want to do this and see how they will be settled and they will fizzle out. You know, they can never get two-thirds, like my colleague said. They can never get two-thirds. Senate cannot get two-thirds. The House of Rep cannot get two-thirds. And even if Senate gets two-thirds, the House of Rep can never get two-thirds. And you need the two of them to get it, but it's an unnecessary waste of time. I think if they dare it, let's see. But I think, like my colleague said, the easiest thing to do now, and the appropriation bill came in, supplementary, and they did first reading, second reading, and they are going to conclude it today and send back to the president for signing. It's still a bill. It's a bill as important
Some of the opinion
so they can as well do first reading and second reading.
The House of Reps already passed the 2022 budget, but the Senate is still stalling. I heard in some quarters that it might be a bargaining chip for the Electoral Amendment Act bill. Do you agree?
Anyway, it may be. Yes, it's likely going to be. But the point is that the presidents will not. They should know the president they are dealing with. President Buhari will not budge. They've been with him for, we've been with President Buhari for 6 years now. So we know the body language. We know where he's going whenever he makes up his mind. Well, what is important is, they said, salus populi suprema legis. The safety of the people is the supreme law. So the good of the people is also the supreme law. And what is it? Just give and take. Take this back, do the amendment, do the first and second reading, send it to him. If you now want, you renegotiate on the issue, and you can actually go to your party and influence your party to do the direct primaries if you want it. All of you are members of the neck of your party. So you can still go back to your party and still achieve the same thing. But let it not be the reason for us to truncate this roadmap. There may not be 2023 if we don't take time. So if we overheat the system, in fact, they are the greatest losers if Nigeria doesn't exist, or if we have more crises. Look at what is happening everywhere. This is just a soothing thing to soothe the people. Let them not incur the wrath of the people.
After all, the direct primary is not the most important part of this bill. Do you agree? There's the electoral voting that way.
So that is exactly my point, that Mr. President would have just assent to this aspect and again send an amendment for that clause which he disagrees with. There are so many aspects of this electoral that was sent to him, and people were, most especially as it concerns electronic transmission of results. Mr. President is showing the fact that, look, if my party does, because in the first place, the party does not really want it. APC does not really want it. And we saw it was the public outcry. And you could listen to when General Babangida was interviewed. He said, look, he is very confident that the National Assembly will do the needful. Because when Nigeria wants anything, they know how to get it. He said on that aspect of it that he has no fear that the National Assembly will do the needful. And sincerely speaking, they did the needful. They came back and said, okay, Nigerians, we have heard you. So we must. You see, as far as we are concerned, I am not bothered about. I've always said I'm not bothered about political party. I'm always bothered about the person that is contesting an election. Because when you look at it, either the APC or PDP, they are the same father and the same mother. They are not different.
Let's take a break here, and when we return, we'll talk more about the much talked about Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. I have Smatuluwale Akpajoye, political affairs analyst, Chukwuma Ezeala as a lawyer and public affairs analyst. Gentlemen, thank you for staying the course of the program this morning.
Thank you.
We'll open the phone lines in a short while to hear your opinion over the Electoral Amendment Bill. The President has refused to give assent to it. He has given reasons. The senators were expecting to hear from them today as regards the way forward in this regard. However, the big question in the mind of people would also be that what would be the implication of running the 2023 general election without an upgrade on this particular document? For instance, in 2015, we used the voter card, what do they call it? The card reader.
Yeah.
And we also saw the use of the BVAS, the biometric voter accreditation system in Anambra State. Perhaps the biggest reason why we need it in a law is for the litigations we mentioned earlier. But beyond all of this, talk to us about the need to have this document upgraded ahead of another general election.
Seriously, as far as I'm concerned, the Electoral Act does not constitute a threat to the 2023 election, because in the first place, the Constitution of Nigeria gave INEC the sole power to conduct election, determine the best way at which an election will be free and fair. So if that aspect alone, and based on that aspect, the Constitution is not in place, this Constitution is not in place, and it's not even being test run, but the National Assembly, the INEC conducted an election in Anambra State, and based on some of the clauses that they are trying to enshrine in the Constitution now, and they conducted a fantastic election which was applauded all over the world, even all over the country. Even political parties that were defeated even applause that, look, INEC conducted a fantastic election. So I don't see either he signs this or he does not sign it. I don't see it as a threat to 2023.
I don't know what you mean
election.
by fantastic, by the way, because I remember that the devices did not work in many places.
Yes.
Less than 10% of voters came out.
If we're talking about the devices, then again we should be talking about even the vote on technology. You see, when you look at it, what we have is purely a technological failure. It is not because the device was not good. And again, in the area, and again, you see, whenever you are test running anything new, you must have issues. And that was what INEC did. And you see, it is just a matter of programming, software failure, and network failure. In the past 2 weeks now, I don't want to mention the network name, but they've been failing, and that we keep jumping from one network to another network. It's a problem of network, and which I think gradually we will get there. We will improve on it. So it is not per se that the system does not work, but it is because, again, they also rely also on the network provider to support them. And if the network provider is not doing well, and again, insecurity again, because some of these mass and telecommunication masses are being attacked every day, are being vandalized every day. So you look at it again. But again, INEC is a work in progress.
INEC is insisting on using technology for election. What do you think? The BVAS that we saw in Anambra, do you think that that litmus test is good enough if we're going to deploy it on a national basis?
Like my colleague said, it's work in progress. There were some defects, but then generally it's
there were still logistic issues too. There were places where elections did not start on time because officers, INEC staff members could not make it. Some of them even resigned.
That is even security. It is security issue.
Yes.
We know what another issue is here with us.
We know what
that's the point I'm making. That's the point I'm making.
But
that security issues in Northwest across the country.
No, but that also would have taken us to the second leg of the arguments on election or conversation on election matters. Who are the operators? What caliber of staff does INEC have? Who do they have? Who can really do this? And that is also where we're talking about the list sent by the president to the National Assembly.
The point I'm making here is that all of the factors that existed in Anambra are still likely going to be with us on a national scale in 2023. It means, therefore, that we're not going to expect that, security is going to, or maybe the security will be the finest higher the election, and then we're going to have, better transportation or better technology. The question is, what are we going to do irrespective of this?
This is exactly where I'm going. I said, if you have credible people in INEC, not just credible people, but people who are thinking ahead, they will look at the mistakes or the problems they have in Anambra, and they will look at solutions on how to solve it. But when you have armchair people, when you bring new people who will not understand, take for instance now, you have Prof that was INEC as INEC commissioner, who conducted that election and who saw those flaws, and who will be in a position, who will be in a position to advise INEC on how to solve this problem at the national scale. They will be able to solve it when Ekiti comes. They will be able to solve it at Osun. And when they solve all these, it becomes easier. So that the problems we are going to have during the presidential elections or during the national elections will be a bit minimal. But when you don't have those people, you bring new people, you bring new things, it becomes... And please, the bill also give INEC the latitude to deploy technology they think it's okay. So it has given them that, and nobody can take it away from them again.
The INEC chairman has an extended 5 years, I think, so we expect to have a continuity in leadership.
You see, in the first place, I also commend Mr. President when he reappointed
Professor
Mahmoud. Sincerely speaking, you see, continuity matters most. I want to believe that some of the lapses in the Anambra election, they are studying it now, and perhaps will make them more prepared for the Ekiti and Osun State election. I want to believe that. And again, going into 2023, you see, we will continue to have, we will still have security problem in the states where security is ravaging us, because in the first place, we are not taking adequate measures to curb those security issues. Now, if you look at it, what is the main cause, what is the main ground for recruiting these people? It is the Almajiris. Long ago, I knew that they not were involved in in crisis that it will be very difficult to curtail it, because they have very large out-of-school children that serve as emergencies. They are just all over, causing trouble. And again, what's it called? The Boko Haram recruiters find them as a soft target to recruit. Of course, you see, it gets to a point that, look, if I stay, I will die. If I go, I will die. Let me go. And you see, when they give them food, they have easy access to some things that they ordinarily they cannot afford. And they will not give them gun, go and kill. If you come back, we'll promote you. If you don't come back, Allah will accept your soul. Somebody like that, and you think that person will stay back?
Let me hold you for a while to take Woodson calling from Delta. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're welcome. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah. As regards this electoral bill, I think in as much as the INEC has the statutory power, constitutional authority to make sure they effect a fair and free election through whichever process. I think this direct primaries is a way forward as far as I'm concerned, because it eliminates imposition either by the governors or the senators or whoever, in authority. If you allow everybody to cast their vote to a candidate of their choice via the party wall, and any candidate that emerges, I think at the end of that election you won't have any litigations. But because imposition from this way or the other way comes, and you see people getting agitated, you see people, feeling that they are disenfranchised, see people feeling, showing their passions in diverse manner. That is what is actually causing all that we are seeing in the political, in this political arena. If the National House of Assembly would allow INEC to do the needful, I don't think we will have all this quagmire any longer in our electoral arena. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Talk to us about how much impact you see this electronic voting option bringing to the quality of our election, particularly in 2023. How much improvement do you foresee? Are we looking at a situation where just by beavers, then our election is going to be more credible?
Oh, sure. BVAS simply means biometric verification.
Bimodal
verification. That is using the two systems, bimodal verification. So now, when you are looking at it with already what we remember that up to today, we are still thinking in recent time that the best election was 2014. It was just aided by this issue of technology. We didn't get it right perhaps as much as we got in 2014 in 2019. So when you now beef up this and give INEC more powers, when you give INEC more powers to deploy more technology, the credibility becomes better. And when you also have a lot of people with experience in INEC to use these facilities, and we still have one or two other elections. We have 2 elections before the national election. So if there are mistakes, we should be able to correct them at this time. And remember, we're also about to have the 5G. So if we have the 5G, I think it will also improve the quality of network that we have in places. That does not mean that security issues, the issue of mass... You may
be excited about the 5G. I'm just wondering if we have even really explored the 4G, as it were, to an extent where we're upgraded to 5G. Okora first called in from Abia. Good morning, Mazi. Yes, Haruchiku.
Good morning, Mr. Mitchell. Good morning, and my brothers and sisters. INEC, they have the facilities. Or the program they have that is good. Transmission is okay. Now let's go and look at what the statement. To me, Nigerians shouldn't be panicking. Nigerians shouldn't be disturbing themselves. The National Assembly, like I think what I saw one of the papers said, that the president said they should suspend their holiday. It's good. Let the National Assembly members senators, House of Representatives, they should proceed on their normal Christmas break like others. When they say next week, they should come back and continue and accept it. To me, if they put direct and indirect there, anybody that wants anyone to take or overrule all of them. But the question is this: it's very, very detrimental for the National Assembly members to abandon what is on ground now to proceed on Christmas break. It's so heavy because one, Nigerians voted them into the office. Their purpose of collecting salaries and allowances is because of Nigerians. So they should make sure that keep entertainment, keep enjoyment on one side, and solve these problems so that it will not affect 2023 election. At the end of the day, if we didn't take time, all these military will not affect 2023. They will say the president will continue. You see Nigeria start panicking. It got in a lot of confusion. But the question is, National Assembly members, whether you are yellow house or pink house or yellow or name the only type of house, you are there for the interests of Nigerians, not for your own personal aggrandizement. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas. But they have to, but INEC should start and employ experts in computer. So let them go there and get themselves equipped for this transmission. Not tomorrow now they say the sun was trained only 2 days. That was how they had mistake. Employ people. No. That's all we think.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your contribution. Well, he is concerned about the vacation period of lawmakers. After all, many of the people that are representing don't have vacation, by the way, so they should just take 1 or 2 days break and get back to fixing this document.
I am not really, look, you see, Yoruba says something that Omotoba Shishe Dede Oyekonasiko Ibadan Obatoma Fish Jaye. A child that has worked very well must have a time to relax. And don't forget that these people, they reside in Abuja. They have to go back to their various constituency. So let them have their vacation. And consult with their people. I am not against their vacation. But what I'm against is that if they come back and not do the needful, Nigerians will not agree. They must come back and do the needful. They must come back and do the needful. Let them go and consult with the people. Look, in my constituency, if Abiy did not consult with the people, I will protest. If what's it called, Jimmy Johnson, Jimmy Benson does not consult, we will protest. I will protest. I will lead the protest. I know his house. That's the simple truth. They must go back and consult with their people. Let them go and consult and let them go back again with the distance. Let them have their vacation. But it is their vacation is not jamboree. It's not to go on jamboree. It is to consult with the people. That's the simple truth. They must go and consult with the people. You people, what do you want?
Ibrahim has called in from Abuja. Good morning, Ibrahim.
Good morning.
Good morning, and please go ahead with your contribution.
Good morning. Please, my contribution is we Nigerians. Hello, sir.
Go ahead, please. We can hear you.
Okay, sir. My contribution is we Nigerians will talk about electoral amendment. What the president did was, in my own opinion, is very right in because I think I have participated in a direct and indirect primary before. I have seen what is happening because sometimes those people that say the next president assigned to using a legal electronics, I don't even know what they were saying because if the president signed today, I now say let them go and do amendment. How long will it take them before we can be able to say okay, what the usual president is? Before we can be able to go where we are going. But for my own something, let us, because the law, we have law before that they used to conduct the last election. I believe you will go through that law. We still use the same thing. We use whether it's Famosia BVN in Anambra election. And it worked for us. So our own issue, let us support the president. Where we are going to, all these Nigerian people, let us support the president and have our own contribution.
Thank you very much for your contribution from Abuja. Even on your Android and iOS devices, you get an upgrade almost every year, a software upgrade. So I think that we're due for an upgrade, where the electoral law is concerned. But as we begin to round up now, what are the easiest or perhaps the easiest option before the National Assembly in this regard?
Very easy. Let them take the bill back. They can actually do first reading today, do second reading today. And maybe tomorrow or when they come back in January, they do the final reading and send it back to the president. Let them just remove that clause for now, in the interest of peace, and to save the necessary areas that pertains to that area will not kill a democracy. Because come to think of it, if you go and do indirect primaries and bring on popular people, the popular people during the elections will vote the person away. So it's not really too harmful to democracy. The only problem we have is because INEC is not functioning well, everybody is running to PDP and APC. If PDP and APC, which some people say they are two leprous fingers, if they refuse to bring the right persons, other parties will bring, and people will rush to those areas, and that is better for us, you know. So please let them go back if they really love the people. Since the president said no for this, so I'm not going to sign. They can do it today and tomorrow. So all this collection of signatures and they themselves can move to other parties if they know that INEC will function well. If you're popular as a senator, move to the other party if a governor hijacks the party in your state and still get yourself elected. So why are we really making so much noise about this?
It's 2023 that year that individuals will win elections irrespective of the parties they belong to.
Yes, I agree. Because in the first place, what was this guy called? Ifeanyi Uba.
Yes.
Won an election as a senator from a relatively unknown party. And because the fact is that the guy worked for it, he went ward to ward, went from hamlet to hamlet, village to village, town to town, and at least he won convincingly. So if he can do that, you see, he has set a precedent. Let people follow that they say. You see, I keep telling people, most of the people that I keep advising to go and register to vote, I keep, please go and register so that you can vote. Don't say your vote will not count. Your vote will count. You just cast your vote and see if your vote will not count.
Yes.
And that's the simple truth. My take this morning is that, please, Nigerians, if you are yet to register to vote, please go and register to collect your voter's card, so that at least you will have a voter's card, so you can have a say. If we all agree that this is the way we want it, irrespective of the political party, our candidate will win the election. And again, we must stop following this bandwagon effect of a political party. Let it be the candidate. Let us choose. If we have a candidate, say no, this guy is sound. Irrespective of the party, let us give him our vote, please. Enough of the political party. That's why you can see people rushing to from APC to PDP, from PDP to APC. When we have over 40 political parties, please, Nigerians, let this be your Let this be your New Year resolution. Please, if you have not registered, go and register so that you can have a voter's card. Please, and on Voters' Day, don't sleep at home. Go and vote.
So the voter apathy is talking about is key. I mean, it was an abysmal low in Anambra where less than 10% of the voters came out to vote. Beyond the appeal, perhaps Nigerians also need to see body language that the process will be free and fair.
Yes, the body language, that's why we are saying let the Electoral Act be signed. It will also increase the zeal for people, because people will now believe, oh yes, that it can work. Remember in 2014, when the Electoral Act was amended and it was included the electronic verification, people came out believing it's going to work, and it worked. So now that we need to modify, it will also increase, the ability of people to come out. So let's just do it. Let them sign it, so as to, with the more information on the people, we can get there.
All eyes on the Senate today to see exactly what they have to say in reaction to Mr. President's letter. Smart Oluwole Akpejoye, political affairs analyst. Chukuma is a lawyer, public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for inviting me.
And that's the show. Thanks for being a part of it. See you again tomorrow.